February 1945. A brutal battle erupted on a desolate island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Iwo Jima, a patch of land less than 21 square kilometers, would become the site of unimaginable bloodshed for tens of thousands. Here, one of the most feared weapons of World War II was unleashed, the flamethrower. But this is not just a story about weapons. It is about people, sacrifice, and the grim reality of war. Iwo Jima, a barren volcanic island, lay between the Mariana Islands and Japan. For the United States, it held immense strategic value, an emergency landing strip for B-29 bombers, and a staging point for fighter escorts on bombing runs. The Japanese understood this as well. Under the command of General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, they transformed the island into an underground fortress, 11 miles of tunnels, armories, bunkers, and machine gun nests, all reinforced with steel and concrete. Kuribayashi's strategy was not to hold the island indefinitely, but to inflict maximum casualties, forcing the Americans to pay for every single yard of ground. Dozens of kilometers of tunnels had been dug deep underground. Reinforced concrete bunkers, their walls up to 2 meters thick, were linked like a spider's web. Ammunition depots, field hospitals, command posts, all hidden beneath the surface, safe from bombs and shells. Artillery could fire and then vanish into concealed firing ports, making it impossible for the enemy to pinpoint their positions. Even when the sky shook under the hammering of naval guns and B-29 bombs, the defenders endured, waiting for the moment to strike back. Kuribayashi knew if American troops reached the beach too quickly, Iwo Jima would fall in days. So he abandoned Japan's traditional defend at the waterline tactic and adopted defense in depth, turning every meter of ground, every dune, into a killing zone. No fixed front lines, nowhere truly safe. Any ravine, any bomb crater could hide a machine gun or sniper's nest. With over 20,000 soldiers, Kuribayashi turned the island into a trap. His men knew they would not survive. They were ordered to fight to the last bullet and to make their deaths as costly as possible for the enemy. In the darkness below, they waited. Above, there was only sea wind and the smell of sulfur. But deep underfoot, Iwo Jima had become a fortress of steel and stone, a city of death where anyone landing would be stepping into hell. Morning, February 19th, 1945. The salt mist had not yet lifted with the dawn when more than 450 U.S. Navy warships formed up off Iwo Jima's shores. On their decks, tens of thousands of Marines gripped their weapons, eyes fixed on the black sand island wreathed in smoke and flame. Naval guns thundered, shaking the sea. Wave after wave of shells crashed into the mountainsides and beaches. The ground seemed to burn. Everyone believed that nothing could still be alive under that steel rain. But when the assault signal sounded and the landing craft surged toward shore, an eerie silence fell. Not a single shot came from the island. No sound but engines and waves. A few Marines muttered, "Maybe they've been wiped out." But this was the trap Kuribayashi had set. The volcanic sand swallowed the boots of the first Marines ashore. It was thick, hot, and slippery. Each step felt like carrying an extra load of stone. They hauled ammunition, mortars, and gear through it. And then hell opened. From the slopes, from Surabashi's crater, from hidden underground ports, machine guns, mortars, and 120-millimeter artillery erupted all at once. Interlocking fields of fire shredded the beach. Marines were trapped between the surf and a wall of lead, with no cover. Amphibious tanks and bulldozers burst into flame within minutes of landing. Entire units were erased on the sand. Shouts mingled with gunfire, the screech of torn metal, and the relentless pounding of the waves. Reinforcement waves kept coming, but each meter gained was paid for in blood. The black sand slowed them, and digging foxholes in it was nearly impossible. They huddled behind wrecked vehicles, fresh bomb craters, anything to shield themselves from the rain of bullets. For hours, the Marines fought just to secure a narrow strip of beach less than 200 meters from the water's edge. Far above, Suribachi loomed like a dark sentinel, and every flash from its slopes meant another deadly shot. U.S. gunners called for direct naval fire on the mountain, but when the smoke cleared, Japanese guns spoke again, from a different tunnel-linked position. By nightfall, thousands of Americans lay dead or wounded, but the survivors held the beach. Faces blackened with soot and sand, eyes blood red from sweat and seawater. They knew this would not be a quick battle. Before them was not merely an island, but a fortress defended with iron will. To take it, they would have to move forward, meter by meter, straight through hell. In Iwo Jima's maze of tunnels and bunkers, many weapons proved useless. Shells and bombs could collapse entrances, but the Japanese would reappear from another exit minutes later. Snipers melted it to the dark. Machine guns roared, fell silent, and then sprang up elsewhere. Against such stubborn defenses, the U.S. Marines relied on one weapon both feared and dangerous to its own user, the flamethrower. The M2 flamethrower, over 30 kilograms of metal and fuel tanks strapped to the back, connected to a hose and nozzle. The man carrying it became the most visible target on the battlefield. A single bullet hitting the fuel tank could turn him into a human torch. But in return, a single burst of flame, over 20 meters long, could wipe out an entire position in seconds. The flamethrower's mission was brutally simple. Get close, aim at the bunker or firing slit, and unleash a stream of burning fuel. Inside, temperatures could soar past 1,000 degrees Celsius, sucking away oxygen and consuming everything. In the dark of the tunnels, the fire poured in like a red storm, destroying both defenders and their fortifications. But to reach firing range, operators had to crawl, run, and dodge through torrents of enemy fire. Every advance required teammates to cover them, machine gunners pinning enemy positions, grenadiers blasting doors, before the flamethrower man rushed forward. Often, when the flame burst out, the enemy guns went silent, but many flamethrower operators fell before they could even squeeze the trigger. For many Marines, carrying a flamethrower was both an honor and a death sentence. They knew they held one of the keys to breaking Iwo Jima's defenses, but also that their chances of survival were slimmer than anyone's. Each burst of flame burned not only the enemy, but etched itself into the memories of the survivors, leaving images they would never wish to recall. As flamethrower men risked their lives to get close, the Marines sought a safer solution and found it in flamethrower tanks. Built on the familiar M4 Sherman chassis, engineers installed high-pressure fuel-spraying systems, turning the steel giant into a massive flame-spewing gun. These flame tanks could project fire over 120 meters, many times the range of a man-portable unit. Advancing with their main gun silent, they unleashed torrents of flame from a turret-mounted nozzle, like a steel dragon breathing fire. The flames clung to bunker walls, poured into vents, and turned the underground spaces into blazing furnaces. Their advantage lay not just in power and range. The Sherman's thick armor shielded the crew from small arms fire and shrapnel, allowing them to close in on strong points and wipe them out in seconds, without infantry having to charge into the killing zone. Often when a flame tank fired, Japanese resistance in that sector collapsed instantly. But operating them was no simple task. The black sand and shell craters could trap them. Enemy troops quickly learned to ambush with anti-tank weapons and mines. Many flame tanks were destroyed mid-mission, their infernos erupting into giant fireballs. Even so, flame tanks shifted the balance in many parts of the island. Once invulnerable bunkers and tunnels could now be eliminated in a single strike. To the Marines, they were armored gods of fire, both weapon and shield for breaking deeper into Iwo Jima's heart. Every meter won with a flame tank cost fuel, ammunition, and sometimes the lives of the crew. But with steel and fire, these machines carved a path through one of the most formidable defenses of World War II. Amid the hell of Iwo Jima, one small-statured but giant-hearted flamethrower Marine entered history, Corporal Herschel Woody Williams. Barely 1.70 meters tall and weighing just over 60 kilograms, Woody carried an M2 flamethrower that was nearly half his own body weight. On February 23, 1945, his mission was to destroy a series of bunkers and machine gun nests halting his unit's advance. With covering fire from his comrades, Woody crawled across the scorched black sand, weaving through shell holes. He reached each position, opened the nozzle, and turned every bunker entrance into a volcanic mouth. Heat and choking smoke forced him back repeatedly to refill his fuel tanks. Each time he returned to the front, bullets still whipped past his head, but he pressed on. In just 4 hours, he destroyed 7 fortified positions, clearing the way for the infantry to surge forward. Woody's strength lay not only in skill, but in his refusal to yield. He knew each trigger pull could be his last. A single shot to his tanks would end everything. Yet in the storm of gunfire and flame, he never hesitated. To his fellow Marines, Woody was not just a flamethrower operator. He was a living flame, lighting the way for them to advance. His actions saved many lives that day and played a decisive role in breaking the Central Island defenses. After the war, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration. When he received it, Woody said simply, "I accept it in the name of those who did not come back." His story is more than a Marine Corps legend. It is proof that even in war's darkest hours, one person's courage can burn bright, like a flame that never goes out. In war, death comes in many forms: bullet, shell, bayonet. But death by fire carries a unique horror. Flamethrower troops, American or Japanese, bore the power to consume entire worlds in front of them. And with that power came a burden few could bear. For those attacked, fire was not only physical agony, it shattered the will to fight, planting a primal fear, the terror of being surrounded, swallowed with no escape. In Iwo Jima's dark tunnels, a single flash of red at the entrance told the men inside that death was upon them. For those who wielded it, each trigger pull was not just a military act, but a decision to end life in the most brutal way. Many flamethrower veterans later said the memories never left them. The stench of burning fuel, the screams snuffed out in an instant. Flame could win battles, but it left invisible scars on the minds of those who unleashed it. On Iwo Jima, Fire became a weapon that destroyed both body and spirit, and when the smoke cleared, survivors on either side carried memories that time could never erase. On Iwo Jima, fire not only consumed fortifications and trenches, it seared itself into humanity's memory of war's cruelty. Flamethrower men, tank crews, riflemen, each bore part of the burden of victory. Many fell, many returned with wounds that never healed. They fought not only for their mission, but for the comrade beside them, for the path home for others. And today, as we look back, the fire of Iwo Jima no longer burns to destroy, but as a reminder, freedom is always bought with sacrifice, and the memory of those who fell will never be extinguished.